Hello everyone, I'm going to be talking about the upcoming competition details which features the Bracelet Meta. This competition will begin on July 11th, 2023 and will end 3 days later. Since Bracelet is the meta, they will give 100,000 stars for each one that you sell. Silica will be cash boosted for this competition, giving 4,000 cash for each one that you sell instead of the regular 1,000 cash. The biome will be same as last week's, being a forest biome north layout with an oil seep. It's going to have a desert edge on the north, east, and south sides, and a river on the west side. It's only going to take 20 seconds to complete a trade on this one. However, they have made it cost 2 gasoline for a regular trade depot and trade pier or freight pier instead of 1 gasoline. Now, if you are planning on using the Express Depot or Express Pier NFTs, those will only cost you 1 gasoline, so they're going to be a big advantage for this competition. The reward structure will be the same as the past couple weeks, with the top 1200 in the leaderboards receiving Gala and an NFT. If you don't manage to get top 1200 and you sell at least 10 bracelets, you will qualify for the uncommon NFT. The NFT reward has not been announced for this competition as of recording this video, and moving forward they are not going to be called ghost cards anymore. They're going to be called blueprints, but so far just expect these blueprints to have the same utility as we've been seeing with ghost cards. As last week's blueprint for the copper panning site, it's going to reduce the craft time required for copper ore, which is the same thing that a ghost card would have done anyways. So as far as we can see right now, blueprints will have the same utility as a ghost card, but they might be able to feature new utilities later on. I'm going to jump in here and explain the 2 new items to you, which are lobster clasp and bracelet. To start off, both of these items can be crafted in the jewelry crafting table. Whenever you open up the jewelry crafting table, you will only see copper jump ring, silver jump ring, and chandelier earrings. What you want to do is take the scroll bar right here and scroll to the right side, and you'll be able to see the lobster clasps and bracelet crafts. For the lobster clasp, it will require 1 copper jump ring, 1 silver jump ring, and 1 silver wire. It is crafted in 20 seconds with a green craft timer. Bracelet requires 8 copper jump rings, 4 silver jump rings, and 1 lobster clasp, and it is crafted in 2.5 minutes with a green timer. So the lobster clasps are crafted very quickly. The bracelets do take more time, so you may possibly need multiple jewelry crafting tables in order to make multiple bracelets at a time. Keep in mind that these 2 new items, the lobster clasp and bracelets, are also stored in the jewelry store along with all the jump rings we've already seen before. You may already be familiar with how to make the jump rings. It requires copper and silver ore, which needs to be smelted into copper or silver, which then goes to the wire mill in order to make copper and silver wire, which then goes to the jewelry crafting table to make copper and silver jump rings, which are then used for the lobster clasp and the bracelet. So that's the whole production chain, but there has been 1 new building that has been introduced for this upcoming competition. However, keep in mind that it is actually optional. You can make bracelets without this new building. This new building is very expensive. If you don't utilize correctly, you will go bankrupt and you will ruin your town. So do be careful. Make sure that you only build these if you have enough money to pay for the wages, because the wages are very high. The building I'm talking about, of course, is the Foundry. So the Foundry is a brand new building. It's going to cost 1.5 million cash, requires 10 lumber, 25 copper, and 25 silver to build, but the wages are 3,000 per minute. That is very high, the highest wages. It's actually the same amount of wages you would see from the nuclear power plant. So very high wages. If you plan on having multiple of these, make sure that you're actually making enough money to be able to pay off all the wages. So these are a very special building that come with a buff. First, let me explain what the buildings can craft. The foundries are able to craft both copper jump rings and silver jump rings directly from copper and silver. So they are able to bypass the wire step completely. saving you 1 space there. In addition, you will not need a road to build these, as shown right here. It's not actually touching a road because it doesn't have a road requirement. That's why I've placed it there. So not needing a road will allow you to place it in more areas than you normally could, since you won't need a road, of course. It also allows you to place it in between a total of 8 forges surrounding it, which takes advantage of its next buff that I'm going to explain here. So the Foundry is actually going to provide a buff to surrounding forges. Pretend it's a proximity effect of 1. So any forges next to it will have their craft times reduced by 10%. But first, I'm going to show you a regular forge that is not affected by the Foundry. As you can see, copper's craft time is 30 seconds and silver's craft time is 10 seconds. So when a Foundry is affecting a nearby forge, the copper craft time will be 27 seconds and the silver craft time will be 9 seconds. So as you can see, 10% reduction. This does stack multiplicatively. First, let me show you over here. I have 2 Foundries. When you add those together, it's about 20% reduction. So when we look at one of the nearby forges, as you can see, 24 seconds for copper, 8 seconds for silver, that's a 20% reduction. It's actually a multiplicative stack, so I'm going to plug that into the calculator real quick. So in reality, the craft time for this forge is 24.3 seconds, but it rounds down to 24 seconds. The way that works, in case you're curious, the regular craft time for these is 30 seconds. When you have 1 Foundry, you subtract 10%, that gives you 20 seconds. If you have 2 Foundries affecting it, then you subtract another 10%. So 27 minus 10% actually gives you 24.3. That's how a multiplicative stack works. That's how we were told it works. So that's how you can get the craft times. With that in mind, if you have multiple Foundries affecting the same forge, you will see very small craft times. Like, you could probably get this down to 10 seconds, but it is diminishing returns, so you'll see less and less returns. Instead of 3 seconds lower per Foundry, you might see 2 seconds. But yeah, keep that in mind. It does help out big time. The reduction in craft time for the forges allows you to smelt more copper and silver using the same amount of forges. So overall, these Foundries will help in the end. You just have to be careful not to go bankrupt. I've noticed that it's pretty difficult to click on them. You might want to click on them on the sides. The Foundries are completely optional. You don't have to build them, but they do help out. The Foundries help out a lot, but you do not have to craft them to be competitive, in my opinion. You can still make the top 1200 if you don't plan on using these. In the end, of course, they will help. Just make sure you don't go bankrupt. The Foundry, it also casts 3 shade and 3 dirty, so just keep that in mind if you're thinking of having them next to any jewelry crafting tables or panning sites or trees. You don't want to negatively impact those. Last thing I'm going to talk about for this competition in particular is Silica. You might not be aware of how to craft Silica or how it works. So Silica is crafted in the sand mines and it requires 2 energy. It does matter where you put the sand mines. So sand mines normally start at the lowest craft time and then they go to their real fastest craft time when you have 3 sandy affecting them positively. So Silica is crafted at 2 minutes at the slowest time. If you want the fastest time to craft Silica, you will want to put it near a desert edge, which is why we were given 3 desert edges on the north, east, and south sides. So you can see that if I put a sand mine right next to the desert edge, it will have 3 passive sand or sandy. I've called it both things. The official name is one of those, but you need to make sure that it has 3 sand in order to craft Silica at the fastest craft time, which would be 30 seconds. Right now, the sand effect works kind of weird. So if you have it so much as just a couple of subgrids away, you won't get the full 3 effect. Like if you have it 1 whole space away, you're not going to get any sandy. So you do have to make sure it's touching that desert edge or 1 subgrid away from it in order to get the full passive 3 sandy. But remember, you do want 2 energy in order to craft Silica quickly. So you probably want to set up power plants nearby that's able to reach the area with 2 passive energy. Finally, you're either going to want a forklift or a worker house in order to pick up the Silica. which gets taken to the warehouse. Silica is a very good thing to craft near the beginning since it is going to be cash boosted, so it's an excellent way of getting cash. The sand mine is easy to craft but pretty expensive at 45,000 cash. You can rush silica near the beginning. You just have to sell all your pawns, sell a few batches of copper ore, then you'll be able to afford the sand mine, the warehouse, the worker house, and 2 wind turbines. A good setup to sell a bunch of silica near the start and get all the cash that you need to enter gas production. That's an excellent way to start off for this upcoming competition. That's all the information I have for now. This build right here, it's not a final result. It's just made for explanation purposes. It is actually crafting the bracelets at only 12 per hour. Trust me, this is not competitive. This is just so you can understand how everything works. I will be working on a final build showcase for this, possibly one that does not use the Foundry at all, and then another one later on that's an upgraded version that will use the Foundry. At least at the moment, that is the plan. So hopefully you're subscribed so you don't miss out on the notifications for that one. If you found this helpful or informative, feel free to like the video or leave a comment with any feedback you may have. As always, I appreciate your support and thank you for watching.